Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. As Muslims, it can often feel like there are forces at work trying to weaken or take away our faith. So, with that in mind, I want to start this reminder with a simple question. As believers and as Muslims, what is the best way to protect our faith and maintain our hope in Allah? And to answer this question, let's briefly look at the final surah of the Quran, which is Surah An-Nas. Looking at Surah An-Nas is an amazing surah that is quite often overlooked. In the second half of Surah An-Nas, Allah warns us of the evil influences of men and jinn. But what does that mean? When it comes to the evil whisperings of jinn, this is a reference to how Shaitan tries to put bad thoughts in our head or twist our emotions to tempt us to commit sins. However, notice that Surah An-Nas also requests protection from the evil whispers or the evil influence of men. But what does the evil whispers of men refer to? It actually has a vast meaning. For example, it can mean propaganda, lies, or false information that people tell us. It can also refer to the negative influence from people, such as people putting us down, saying hurtful things to us, or telling us things that weaken our faith and hope. Or it can refer to things people tell us to manipulate us. Or it can also mean hearing things that feed our ego or start making us become arrogant. Sometimes we've been told hurtful things in the past, and those hurtful words we were told may have become scars on our hearts that are still negatively affecting us in life. And in Surah An-Nas, we're asking Allah to help us heal those scars. So in Surah An-Nas, we are asking Allah for two things. First, we are asking Allah to help us let go and move past the hurtful things we may have heard in the past. We are asking Allah to help us let go of the lies we may have been told in the past so that they no longer affect us. And second, we are asking Allah to only let the positive voices, the voices of truth, the voices that increase our faith, have influence over us in the future. Surah An-Nas is teaching us that as believers, we should be very careful of what we listen to and who we listen to. Now look at this next thing. This is a very interesting aspect of the surah, and it comes from the 5th verse of the surah. Now look at this next thing. This is a very interesting aspect of the surah, and it comes from the 5th verse of the surah. The beautiful thing about Surah An-Nas is that it mentions that these evil whisperings or bad thoughts do not occur in the heart. Instead, they happen in the chest. Look at the wording of the surah. Allah did not say, fi qulubin nas, He said, fi sudurin nas. In other words, Allah did not say that these evil influences whisper things into our heart. He said that these evil influences whisper things into our chest. And the choice of words is very important because the heart and the chest are two different things. The heart is only a small part of the chest. So the wording of the verse shows us that these evil influences cannot automatically penetrate or put ideas into our heart. They can whisper things into our mind and chest, but they do not have access to our heart unless you or I give it to them. In other words, here's the main lesson. We cannot always decide what voices we physically hear, but we can decide what we allow to influence us. We can decide what voices we reject, and what voices we allow into our heart. And this is the mercy of Allah. He has given us autonomy over what we allow into our hearts. He has given us the ability to protect ourselves from these negative or evil voices that jinn and men might try to put into us. We cannot physically stop people from saying negative things to us. We cannot physically stop Shaitan from whispering bad things to us. But we can stop the bad influences from entering our hearts. We can decide what voices we listen to. When somebody says something to us, or when an idea comes into our head, we have the ability to either accept it or reject it. Because the only one who can give a person access to our heart is you and me. Surah An-Nas is teaching us that we all have positive and negative voices in our life. But we get to choose if we listen to the good voices or the negative voices in our life. We get to choose who we allow to influence us. Do we allow hope to influence us, or do we allow fear and regret to influence us? The choice is up to us, and that is a mercy of Allah. As we conclude, we started with the question of how do we protect our faith? And Surah An-Nas gives us the answer by teaching us a variety of lessons. Number one, it teaches us that we protect our faith by being careful of who we listen to and what we listen to. Number two, remember, we are all exposed to negative and positive influences every day. But Surah An-Nas teaches us that we decide what voices we allow to influence our heart. We have the ability to ignore the negative influences and accept the positive influences. We have the ability to decide what influence we allow to affect us. And this is the blessing and ability Allah has given each of us. And number three, by making sure we listen to the right influences, the influences that bring us closer to Allah, we will protect our faith and continue to become the best version of ourselves. Ameen.